Hey guys, welcome to the Miracosta podcast. I'm Kim, and I'm joined here with,
It's Jessica.
And Tim.
and this is our podcast. So sit back, relax, and have some popcorn, and yeah. So what were we just talking about? The Dora the Explorer movie.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It looks like a pile of crap.
I think, it's one of those movies you can watch with, it has to be one of those movies where you watch it with other people. It can't be that you go to a theater, you buy a ticket, and you say, one for Dora. It has to be, with either kids or people to make fun with. Or just have a fun time or something like that. I'd categorize this as family, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
It just seems to me another sad attempt at, a reboot or, just a live-action remake. But now, instead of Disney doing it, it's Nickelodeon doing it. They're trying to cash
kind
in.
of thing.
Yes. And it's like, did anyone ask for a live-action Dora movie? I don't think so.
Well, you know why I think it may be kind of shaky is it might have the not to go too extreme, but the video game curse where Dora I think started out as a video game, right? That's why there's it started as a computer game, I believe, where it had the mouse on screen. That's why in the first couple seasons you would see a mouse click on stuff.
I remember.
Point and clicking.
Yeah.
Oh.
I used to watch Dora so religiously when I was really little,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my favorite show. But
yeah, I'd always heard of it. I'd never watched Dora. I think it was, I think I was in my teens by the time Dora the Explorer came around, because I'm 28 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I watched so much Nickelodeon growing up. I watched Dora in my preschool days, and then when I got a little older, I started watching SpongeBob, and it was just my thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the Nicktoons movies on Netflix that recently came out?
Yeah, they made that Invader Zim movie.
Yeah, that one was probably... I haven't seen the Hey Arnold one, but that one was probably the better of the two. I mean, there was the Rocco one. I saw that one.
Oh, I need to see that.
Yeah.
What, Rocco's Modern Life?
Yeah, Rocco's Modern Life.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I really like what Nickelodeon's doing with these actual remakes that are true to the animation of the old 90s shows and stuff.
Yeah.
It does look faithful in that sense. I felt that a couple decisions that characters made in Rocco were kind of odd, just spontaneous, but Invader Zim seemed a little bit more grounded. But what's weird about it was, did you see it?
Yeah, I only made it halfway through, but it was good.
Yeah, it makes me have the feeling that they're gonna do a TV series, but just by how it's set up, do a continuation or something. But it's it's one of those logical things where it's they're ending it. This is the huzzah, but it's weird. Just for me, it seems like they're kind of suggesting something.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Did you see the Hey Arnold movie though?
No,
they aired that on Nickelodeon.
Was that good?
Yeah, that was really good. It was such good closure to the Hey Arnold series, and yeah, they aired it on Nickelodeon instead of Netflix.
Well, okay, that's the odd thing about made for TV specials or aired on stuff like that. It's almost like those movies have a different feel to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out a couple movies that do that. I think, was it the Lilo and Stitch series or something like that, where they ended up starting to make made for TV specials, and then they eventually made the Stitch 2 after 2 movies, or something, and that Disney's kind of done things similar to that, but I just kind of think that the made for TV movies kind of off balance that.
Yeah, and especially because Nickelodeon, even though old fans were coming in to watch the Hey Arnold thing, they were trying to make it appeal to new fans too, but it's people who are watching Nickelodeon now are young kids and they don't understand what Hey Arnold is. It's picking up on an old TV show from the 90s, and these kids have no idea what this is, and so I feel that's why it dropped in ratings, and so they had to start airing these specials on Netflix instead.
Yeah.
So, I guess, should we move on to something else?
want to talk about like certain topics, or do you want to talk about movies?
Oh yeah, we were talking about biopics, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's the Harriet movie, right?
Yeah, I have it. I just pulled it up right now. First off, I'm sadly disappointed that now it's 2019. It's almost 2020. It's just a shame that this story hasn't been made yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a huge piece of American history,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a shame that it's only just now getting a true adaptation and a true telling.
Or if
on
there
the
are
screen.
other movies, it definitely hasn't been known. So
Mhm.
like if there are
Yeah.
like I'm guessing they're mainly documentary pieces, like just kind of National Geographics or similar type of videos.
Mhm.
I just think that like there's also that movie The Current War with Tesla. I'm
Mhm.
wondering how not like how faithful it's going to be, just will it kind of will historians view it in a positive light?
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think about biopics in general? Like movies that are biographies about people's lives.
I don't think they're half bad.
Yeah.
If done properly and told as true as possible to the person's actual life.
Mm-hmm.
If you got to give the real person justice.
Yeah. And I think it's a smart tactic, for movie telling, because there's so many people out there who have had such interesting lives and real stories to tell, and I think it's a great idea to tell actual real stories about people who have lived.
For me, I hold like the standard kind of like of like the top ones I've seen. Like I like the one about the car manufacturer Tucker. That one was kind of interesting. But the one I held as a standard that I look at others to is Lincoln. That one was pretty good. But I wonder how many liberties they did. That's the one problem with these pieces is how accurate are they? Because you could be sitting with your historical friend and it's like, oh, I really enjoyed this movie, and then they could pick it apart. With a fine pick, comb or something.
And I think that's the one controversy. I remember with Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, I mean, I saw that movie and I loved it, but a lot of people were saying that it wasn't actually accurate to Queen's life and their legacy and all, things that like Freddie Mercury went through.
There's that one album they drop and they say like in the wrong year or something like that.
Yeah.
And I worked at Regal when that movie came out, and there were so many people that loved the movie, but they hated, like in the theaters, they were walking out and they hated that one part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing that people need to remember is that even though it is a biopic, a story about someone's life, Hollywood still has the biggest say. It's basically Hollywood deciding on what kind of liberties that they're going to take.
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, real life doesn't happen in a really astounding order. This is going to be a Hollywood movie. They have to make it exciting. They have to make money off of it. So in order to do that, they have to make the movie and write it in a way that's going to be a consistent attention grabber, So they're not always going to be able to do everything as accurate as it happened in real life because people will not like it because, in all honesty, real life is kind of boring.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Especially if you look at a person's earlier years. I mean, there's very few stories that ever last longer than 5 years. Like when they're 5 years old, or like when they're young, like when they're really young, they just fast forward to maybe teenage adolescence, and then they just skip right to the adult. Like I wonder what Neil Armstrong's kind of childhood upbringing would have been to make him, because you always wonder what did you want to do when you were a kid? Like in these movies, when you're seeing people that are faced with decisions in their lives, it's like you want to know kind of how did they get there. And I kind of feel like for those documentary movies or those biopics, they could do a little bit better job just focusing on the youth aspect or what inspired them, like that spark that made them stand out. But I think they're fine. I think it depends on the person aspect of it.
For me, they definitely like helped me get more intrigued with that person. It's like there may be some like celebrity or just famous historical figure that I never really like thought to care about. But then I see their movie, then I'm like thinking about them now. I'm like, oh my god, they went through all of this. I had no idea, and then I start kind of researching them.
The perfect example of that kind of feeling makes me think of Nikola Tesla himself.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, a real biopic of him has not been made.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, and his story is just heartbreaking and it's quite insane, actually.
Yeah, like the current war movie that's coming out, that's focusing on Edison, right?
That's focusing on Edison.
Yeah, didn't like Edison take credit for like everything Nikola Tesla did?
Oh, yeah. Not only that, but he hired a bunch of other people to perfect patents, and he just slapped his name on them. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the fact that he electrocuted animals to show off his, inflated
He
ego.
really tried to just kind of, not to be right, but like kind of pull a Disney where he tried to get everything under his belt. Like
he's basically a piece of shit.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of, even at the time, there were people that just, criticized him. But, like, what I kind of find odd about, like, more specifically, the movies about him versus, like, Tesla or, that's an interesting topic, like, inventor stories.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you focus on that, it's like you'll see, like, a glimpse of, like, I think there's a Wright Brothers movie that came out a while back, but you'll see a glimpse of, like, the blueprints. And it's like, for most people, that is, like, the core of the story or, something like that. But then it'll just, I'll go on with my social life and things like that. And it's like, well, what about the actual inventing process? Like, if a person's going to the movies and they want to see, like, an artist paint, or if they want to see, a performer sing, you want to see them, stringing the guitar or tuning it a bit. You want to see a person mixing their paint to see how they did it. And
you want to see their process.
You want to see the process. And for a lot of movies, they don't tend to follow that format as much. They tend to go more with the day-to-day lives rather than like routines of the artist.
Like everything except the actual process itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of drives me nuts.
Or if they put in the family issues, that tends to derail it quite a lot.
Yeah. What other movies are coming out?
Frozen 2.
Two. There's like 6 movies that have 2 in the title. There's Frozen, there's Suicide Squad, Shaun the Sheep.
They're coming out with another Suicide Squad?
Yeah, Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Maleficent 2. There's so many sequels.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not interested at all in both Gemini Man or Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
For me, Jungle Cruise, I don't care
for that either.
Have you ever seen The Mummy? Like
which one? The most recent one?
No, the Brendan Fraser one.
Absolutely, loved it.
It feels like it's gonna have the same exact vibe as that, but the problem with that is that was like
better.
Well, I feel like the Mummy itself is a bit of a stretch. Like a good movie when it came out, but it's a bit of a stretch now when you rewatch it. But, it's still pretty good. I think that it's not going to hold up. The Jungle Cruise movie is not going to hold up as well, like, in a couple years after it comes out.
Yeah. One movie that I'm not going to lie, I was really surprised that I really enjoyed it was the Jumanji sequel.
Oh,
I actually got a kick out of it. It was really funny.
What was it called?
Wait, the remake that they just made?
Yeah, the one with,
Yeah.
There's a sequel to that one coming out.
The next level.
Really?
But the most recent, basically the Jumanji's sequel, which is the Jumanji either Welcome. It was Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So I was really wonderfully surprised how good it was. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny and pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to get the same kind of reception for the next one, but here's hoping.
Oh, I forgot. Going back a little bit to the documentary pieces. Apparently, it was based on a true story, but there's like a movie with Eddie Murphy, Dolomite.
Yeah,
That
I'm
one.
really excited for that one.
I'm going to be a little bit honest. Have you ever seen a movie called Be Kind, Rewind?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's pretty much it was Jack Black and I forget the other person in it, but it's like these two people working at a VHS, Blockbuster, and one day the guy comes in with all these magnets and he accidentally erases all the tapes.
Oops.
And then these people are coming in, look kind of scary, and it's like, hey, we'll get you your movie the next day. So they film like Ghostbusters,
Huh.
like the whole, not the whole thing, but they film as much of it as they can, and it's, I think they called a Swede version, or that was before parodies became really big,
It's a Swede.
and it ends up, they get really popular, and I kind of feel like the filming process that they did, or like that they're kind of making fun of, like low budget movies. I feel like that Dolomite movie, because it's pitched as a comedy. I think it's gonna kind of be like that, where the guy's trying to, make himself up as a movie star, and it's gonna be like The Room or The Disaster Artist. It's gonna follow that format.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm making a great movie, and everyone's gonna love me. It's gonna be dramatic. I'm gonna break out.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
You go into comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the one thing about Hollywood is it's pretty hard to get out of comedy. Like you can be a pretty good athlete, or you could be a pretty good singer, but it's like the moment you go into comedy, unless you find a really outstanding role to break out of, because
you get typecasted.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened in reverse to, like, did you ever see Leslie Nielsen in any of his movies, or like The Naked Gun? It's like
he started off doing dramatic roles.
Really good roles too. Like I really enjoyed him in The Poseidon Adventure, but it's kind of odd when you see a person shift genres.
Yeah. And then he ended up people ended up realizing how effing funny he really was, and then
really funny.
When I grew up, I only knew him as a comedy actor.
Yeah.
So that's a trip.
Yeah, it's kind of like when someone starts out as like a sitcom star and then they cross over into movies.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with actors. For example, like a really big example I can think of is Jennifer Aniston. She was really big in Friends, then she, became a huge movie star afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then who was it kind of recently? Aaron Paul of Breaking Bad fandom or whatever. He was mostly in sitcoms. He was in Breaking Bad, of course, and then he tried to get into movies, and he was having a hard time after Breaking Bad ended because his movies, he, I guess, didn't really end up in a lot of great blockbuster movies, and then he's kind of had a hard time doing movies ever since, and then thankfully this
similar with Bryan Cranston. Remember, he was in Malcolm in the Middle, and then he didn't want to do that anymore, so then he
Did you know that he was in the Power Rangers?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Is that what it? Yeah. Oh, and he played, that was another weird trivia, he played one of the villains, actually, or one of the monsters of the original series.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Just so you know. So, yeah.
Oh, the Power Rangers. I'm thinking now of, like, other adaptation works. Like, pretty much ever since Transformers hit it off, there's been so many, like, we were talking about that Dora movie and stuff, the Ninja Turtles movies. There were, well, pretty much Michael Bay, but, like, Midway. That's a good segue.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
Midway, yeah. Midway in 1917 looked like good. Or, I wonder how well 1917 is going to hold up. But, like, World War I and World War II definitely have drastically different tones. I would say you just look at the sky. World War I is cloudy, and then World War II, you just see clouds. Just like, just sparse. They're always white and puffy, but, then you have the dramatic battles, and it's either going to be like Private Ryan or Fury, where the people are, somehow they have scars, but their hair is good.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be they're covered in mud.
So, real quick, I'm looking at the cast list for Midway, and get ready to crap your pants.
Nick Jonas.
Woody Harrelson, Patrick Wilson, Luke Evans, Ed Skrein, Dennis Quaid, Mandy Moore, Alexander Ludwig, Aaron Eckhart, Darren Criss, Nick Jonas.
Mhm.
Holy crap. That's a shitload of fantastic people.
Who's directing?
Roland Emmerich.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of heard or got the feel that whenever there's like a war movie,
Wonder Woman, I forgot about that.
yeah, it's like all war movies, especially when we're, I don't know, World War II movies or something, they get like really big reviews. They're usually always like really nicely received.
World War II specifically. World War I movies, I mean, it's almost always trench warfare.
And anything about the Holocaust and stuff. Like any movies made about the Holocaust are
I thought you were
end
talking about
up being huge.
World War I, like with that. Well, there was the Armenian.
Yeah.
But what was it?
War movies in general, I feel, just get like huge reception.
Well, and that's why I think Wonder Woman did so well. It also captured like a pretty, like, it came out. Did it come out around the 1910s? I think so. Like the Wonder Woman. I'm pretty sure. No, that was a bit later. But for superhero movies more specifically, but whenever you have like a kind of piece of media that you're able to tie into like a war period, like that's an interesting thing. How do war period movies differ from like just period pieces? Like, if you look at Pretty Woman versus Lincoln, there's going to be, some historical context. You're going to have the clothing. You're going to have, horse and buggy or just, horse riders. But, there's almost like a different culture to those types of movies too. Like, with war movies.
Yeah, they're period films.
Yeah. Like, have you ever seen the Buster Keaton movie where he's the general? Is that what it is?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I almost say that's like a blend between the two genres because you're having like this. I know it is. It's the aspect of home versus war. That's what it is. It's like when you're in war, you're on the battlefield. You're on a place that, you're in hell. You're going to die. You're going to do some bad stuff. But when it's on the home front, you're just defending your home from it.
Mm-hmm.
So, war pieces, I definitely say are one to watch out for this year. But I can't think of that many. I think is even next year. There's like the Wonder Woman movie that might or might not be a war movie. It's 1917. And does Midway come out this year?
It should be.
Yeah.
Or late. Yeah, it's going to be out in 2019.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's distributing that? Is that Warner Brothers?
I have no idea. No idea. Says it's out November 8th, I think.
It's weird, like directors wise. You haven't seen. Has Spielberg done anything recently?
Let's find out.
Yeah. Spielberg and this is gonna sound weird, but Blue Sky, I can't figure out what they've been doing.
Blue Sky. I think like their most recent film was the Ferdinand movie with the bull.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I like
John
that
Cena.
movie.
I forgot about that.
It was
Jesus,
cute.
John Cena.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me actually look
I had
it
to.
up. Yeah, I really like Blue Sky Studios. They have
Jesus.
cute little animated films.
Oh God, Steven Spielberg, executive producer on the new Cats movie.
Oh.
Yep. Oh,
Okay,
let's do it.
okay,
Let's do it. Let's do it.
okay.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Cats movie?
Yes, and Taylor Swift.
The sequel to the Sonic trailer, am I right?
Wait, what?
The sequel to the Sonic trailer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'll probably.
Oh, okay, so the latest Blue Sky movie that's coming out is called Spies in Disguise.
With Will Smith.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones I had on here. I thought that was
and Tom
DreamWorks.
Holland. He's in Spider-Man, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. Oh, now what was Homecoming? They called him Spider Monkey or something like that, or
Spider Pig.
I wasn't able to see that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still like a fan of the original Spider-Mans with Tobey Maguire.
Oh my god. Yeah, I really enjoyed though. I mean,
Oh shit.
the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think you at least need 5 or 10 years before you can do a remake or reboot, unless it's a really, really good director, a really good piece that's working, like or cast working. You have to have something really good for it. Like that's why I don't think.
Yeah.
Ever since Bumblebee came out, I don't think we're gonna get another Transformer movies.
I
Like,
hope to
next-
God they
Wanted to
finally
see that.
put that thing down and just let it die. Just
Oh
please
wait,
stop.
no, I forgot. Netflix is either doing a special or they're doing a series for it. I forget what it is. I think it's a series. Like going to. What do you think about 3-part series? Like like a part 1, part 2, part 3. Not necessarily like Star Wars.
Like Lord of the Rings?
That's a good example. Yeah. Maybe like continuation pieces.
I think they're pretty cool as long as they're well done though.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of stuff to do another full-on movie.
Yeah, I think it mainly has to be self-contained. Like that's like when you're looking at all these sequel movies, can you go to them if you? I haven't seen Frozen in English. I watched it in my Spanish class. We were kind of forced to because our professor had his kid there and it was like, hey, let's watch Frozen in Spanish, and it was like, okay, but for what was it like the Suicide Squad movie? I haven't seen the first one, or for Maleficent, I haven't seen that one either. I think the only one I've seen was the Shaun of the Sheep one, and then I saw.
What the hell is that sound?
What was the other one the Star Wars movie? The Star Wars movie before The Last Jedi.
Oh,
no,
The Force
it was
Awakens?
Yeah.
Or Rogue One?
I saw. Well, I wanted to see Rogue One.
Yeah.
But I ended up seeing The Last Jedi and a little bit of 8. Is that what it's called?
The Last Jedi is episode 8. So.
Oh, 7. I saw a bit of 7 and then 8. Yeah, 9. Do you think they're going to do 10 Star Wars movies?
I don't know.
Well, I heard that the guy who does, like the people who do Game of Thrones, they're gonna make another Star Wars trilogy.
No.
Like that's the reason why Game of Thrones
Dan and Dave.
Yeah, that's why Game of Thrones turned bad in the final.
Yeah,
because
they
were
focused
on
on
Star Wars.
Oh, fucking shit.
I don't know if they're still doing that or not because Star Wars fans have been so pissed off right now that Disney is just like, oh shit, because
aren't they doing another Indiana Jones?
I had no idea.
Last time I heard anything to do with Indiana Jones, I heard Chris. What's his face? Fucking Star-Lord.
Oh,
Chris, what's his face?
Chris, not Evans or Peters. What was it? Chris Patrick? Chris Pratt?
Chris Pratt,
That's what it is.
Last time I heard anything, and this was, I think, 2 years ago or whatever. Last time I heard anything to do with Indiana Jones, they were planning to do a reboot with Chris Pratt as the new Indy. Haven't heard anything since. No idea. And by the way, do we have anything else we're discussing on that topic?
Not much.
I don't know.
So I'm looking at Steven Spielberg's IMDb profile right now and his upcoming projects. I am holy crap.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
So I'm currently looking at a page for an upcoming Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2.
Oh my goodness.
You've heard of it? You've seen it?
I did not know they're coming out with a sequel.
Apparently,
I just saw it right now.
You were just telling me a few days ago how I need to see the first one because I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's one of those really, really great hybrid films where it does live action animation or live action actors mixed with hand-drawn animation.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a classic movie.
Apparently, the original draft of that script, since the first movie did so well, they were going to make a sequel where I think it was going to be, it's kind of funny, it ties into, it was going to be a war movie or a war piece because Doesn't it take place like before World War II or around there?
Around there, I'd
Yeah.
say.
So like they were gonna have the sequel be like Roger Rabbit, like
I was thinking 1940s.
Yeah, it definitely takes place around there, and
Yeah.
they were gonna just kind of have him in, but I think it was Steven didn't like the script.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said, it didn't mesh well with the original one, or just that was the main reason why it got. I think they eventually delayed it, but yeah, that one's coming out, and I wonder how well Disney's going to work with the other distributors because
Yeah.
Do you know who the two characters who weren't owned by Warner or Disney were in that movie?
It was Roger Rabbit, right?
Yeah, and
Roger Rabbit and Jessica Rabbit.
Oh no, I mean like the two characters that were okay. Two characters didn't show up in the movie, like two cartoon characters, two famous ones.
So
yeah.
I had heard that Disney and I don't know what was the original.
Was it Warner?
It was Disney and I think Warner Brothers. Yeah, were you can have specific characters like Dumbo or Daffy Duck and what's his face Rabbit.
Yeah, Bugs
Bunny and Mickey Mouse or whatever, as long as both
characters had the same screen time.
Yeah, screen time and I think amount of dialogue or was it?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I heard.
But two characters aren't in the movie, and it is Popeye because that's owned by Paramount.
Yeah. Okay.
And Felix the Cat makes a cameo, but it's not actually him. You know, in the tunnel.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's fair to say he's probably the first cartoon character they could, but besides Dory the dinosaur.
Yeah.
But you know that kind of makes sense. I would like to see Felix in the next one, especially since he's public domain now. I mean, that's the other thing too.
It's oh wow. I don't know like it says a sequel to the 1988 movie. So, honestly, there's nothing about it. Let me read some of the trivia. Bob Hoskins, of course, he's not going to be reprising his role because he's obviously not with us anymore, sadly. Robert Zemeckis expressed desire stating that he would consider creating a digital version of Bob Hoskins, but I don't think that's a good idea.
Speaking of which... Didn't he play Mario in the Mario Brothers movie?
That tanked?
Yeah. And,
it was him and John Leguizamo.
And tying that in, isn't it next year they're going to make a, DreamWorks. No, Illumination, that's what it is. Illumination's making the Mario Brothers movie.
I can't stand Illumination.
Wait, they're making a Mario Brothers movie?
They're pretty much making, Disney was going to make a Mega Man movie. Mega Man and the Sims. But
I think I heard that.
Something about like one of the companies they bought. Oh, Fox was. That's what it was. Fox was going to make that. They're making 5 movies, but then Disney kind of bought them out, and because of that, they fell apart. I wish I could figure out what those movies were, but I'm pretty sure it was The Sims and Mega Man were the two that they want to, and I kind of want to see what that Mega Man movie would have looked like. But tying it back. Oh, I forgot what I was going to talk about. I think it was... Bob Hoskins in the Mario movie. Yeah. I think of it can be a success, but man, DreamWorks and Illumination, it's either you have to have dragons or you have minions. I mean, that's a kind of spectrum going on.
Yeah, the thing with Illumination is that they care more about like marketing for their movies than actually making good movies. So it's
isn't that every studio nowadays?
Yeah, but like especially Illumination, like they'll have so many like trailers that are like top notch for their movies, like Secret Life of Pets, Minions, like so much like merch.
Netflix is doing that. Yeah. You reminded me of the Grinch movie.
Yeah.
Netflix is doing the Green Eggs and Ham special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and apparently it looks like it's done by the same animators, pretty much. And that one looks Lorax quality, if that makes sense. If you've seen the Lorax, it looks around there.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that, but I think that was Illumination too, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was either Illumination or DreamWorks. They're pretty much, aren't they like one owns the other?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think they're separate. DreamWorks?
Yeah, DreamWorks and Illumination.
I think DreamWorks is owned by 20th Century Fox. And
But wait, Disney owns Fox.
yeah, Disney bought 20th Century Fox, but I think Illumination is like its own separate company. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, that would definitely be weird if Disney somehow got their hands on DreamWorks.
Yeah, I think they did.
That would upset it. When they got Blue Sky, that was
Yeah,
weird.
but Blue Sky is owned by 20th Century Fox too, I think.
So like a joint ownership?
I don't know. Let me look it up.
That's odd. I mean, the only other two companies Disney could really grab besides Sony would be Columbia and MGM, and I don't see them getting either one of those. Especially after they grabbed okay. So what companies does Disney own? They own
A lot.
Jim Henson, Lucas, Marvel. They got one recently, Fox.
Damn.
Wasn't there one more that they got recently or a while back?
I don't know.
Oh well.
But
yeah, Disney definitely. I mean, it would be odd if they weren't trying to do something like that. But I'm just kind of shocked that, like, if you look at it, no other company's trying to do that. Like, you're not seeing Sony, try to buy up Columbia or something like that. That'd be, ridiculous.
Yeah. Disney owns everything.
Yeah.
They're like
my soul.
They're like the Walmart of movies. Like, they're just like a
I
big
can get behind
monopoly.
So is Paramount the Kmart of animation?
Then what's Illumination?
I don't know.
They're the dollar store.
It's funny. All right, now what?
Let's try to get to know Tim a little bit more, because this is his first time joining us. So, why did you get into film? What brought you here?
Well,
Trimmer. Sorry. Trimmer.
Mainly, well, that's a good segue. TV. That's a big reason too. I watched pretty much like a bunch of TV when I was young, a bunch of cable, but mainly like I started to watch more. What do you call that? Like journey pieces or journey movies, like like let's say Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I kind of rewatched that a little while back, I was like, you know what? There's some pretty powerful messages you can tell in movies, and I kind of wanted to also be a writer, make my my own works, maybe make some comics or strips or things like that.
Yeah.
But I mainly kind of got into it like this. I'm taking screenwriting with you guys too, and I mainly got into it just to also see how the industry is like itself.
Yeah.
And I'm liking a lot of the stuff I see. I guess the only thing that's kind of like opening my eyes in a different way is just formatting of stuff. And not necessarily like papers or scripts or things like that, but like how the system is structured. Because, I think, of like the, what do you call it? Like in production, how there's like, the producers or the executive producers, like we went over the different, power structures. And I'm kind of interested in that. I just mainly want to, write or edit. Like that's kind of what I want to do.
Do you have like a genre that in film that you like the most that you might want to get into?
There's only one genre I kind of don't dive into, and that would be like romantic dramas or something like that. Yeah. I just, I don't have anything against it. It's just I haven't done works for that. I've done, I'm trying to write fantasies. I'm trying to write mainly fictional pieces. I haven't really done much in terms of nonfiction. I feel like that would be a really good experiment to see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to do more fictional works and more bit fantasy. I mean, the one thing that's a problem is like I have this idea for a superhero series, but it's so oversaturated right now. I mean, if you try to post anything, if it's not breakout great and people love it and you have the right amount of publicity for it, it's probably not going to do as well as you want it to.
Yeah. You want to like tell us more about your superhero story?
Well,
Or is it too early in production?
Yeah.
well,
No
like,
pressure.
pressure, pushing down on me.
Under pressure.
But well, like it's kind of a good segue to like a couple other topics. But like I'm trying to explore have okay. So the idea I have is it's not a satire, but it's an examination piece of how government actually works by having characters personify by having superheroes personify particular branches of the government. So you have one hero that's in charge of sanitation. You have one person who's in charge of money distribution. You have one person who's in charge of security, and they're pointed to those positions by this kind of vague force that you learn later is a person that was banished from another place. Not going to go into big details and stuff, but pretty much you think these guys are going to be the bad people. When in actuality, what they're doing is they're just making their own type of country, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then they just are exploring their. I wouldn't even say that they have powers. I would say it's mainly what power they have in terms of like their government status. Because I'd mainly say if you look at The Office, that's what I'm trying to go for. In the sense, I'm trying to have like a type of banter satire instead of looking at how effective is an office. I'm trying to look at how effective a government system could be, and it's not that I'm criticizing any form. I'm just coming up with, okay, if we were to come up with a new one, how would this system that I'm structuring work? That's what I'm trying to.
I really love satire. I think it's like one of the most like brilliant ways of writing and telling comedy. Is to like, I think the key to like writing satire is to kind of like look for flaws in things and the way that things work. If you have like the ability to do that, to see like what's wrong with systems and how they work, then you can like write satire.
Yeah, you just can't break the fourth wall too much, though. I mean, that's the one problem with satire is sometimes they try to just go beyond their scope.
Yeah.
And I mean, immersion's important in many works. For most people, they just want to see a movie and go. Or for most people, they like trilogies, not because they like long movies. They like to be in a world and then not have to be taken out of it. They can just watch the next one and continue from where they left off. If you've seen all of the first Lord of the Ring movies, if you've seen all of them and then you want to, have more of that experience, you could, go to The Hobbit, or you could go to the 77 versions, or you could go to, if you want to, the book. But for most people, they want not an escape. They just want to be in a place where they can, feel like, oh, wow, they want engagement. And for many of these films, and like that's the hard part of writing a script is when you're having such minimal dialogue or such minimal actions, or the slug lines when they're just so kind of basic actions, it relies so much on the director and so much on the actors to convey what you want, and that's tricky. And I would say it's mainly the directors and actors that, if you have a good script, that's the other problem too. They sometimes post scripts online, if not almost always nowadays. But if you have a good script, pretty much like, it just takes one bad person to ruin it. Or if you have a bad script, it takes one good person to make it work.
Yeah.
Looking up Tim Burton's stuff, what he's doing, and he's only his filmography stuff right now. The only thing that Tim Burton it's listed that Tim Burton is working on is him being an executive producer on Beetlejuice 2, but I just looked up the Beetlejuice 2 page, and it said in their trivia area that as of 2019, Beetlejuice is canceled. Oh. So
it seems like these days Tim Burton's not really like writing and directing things anymore. He's just kind of like producing movies.
Everything past No, that's not right. I was going to say Edward Scissorhands, but there were a couple movies. I'd say After Alice is controversial. Like, personally for me, I like the concept that he was going with, where if you're trying to do a reimagining, you tell the story backwards. You have the character meet, people in different times and have different interactions like you would in a time travel piece. But what I didn't like about the Alice movie, or I wasn't very fond of, was I I didn't I liked the part when she was a kid and having that flashback and stuff. And to me, and the people I was watching it with, they wanted to see that movie. They wanted to see the Tim Burton Alice, original Alice, Tim Burton style first, and then see this one second. And for many people, when that scene came up, they're like, I know what's off of this movie. We wanted to see that one when it was having that backflashing. Did you two see Alice? The
the
original
first one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember not really liking that movie.
And
I thought they're okay. I think those movies, they're fun, but they're like borderline obnoxious.
well, and it's pretty like one thing I realized is it's kind of dangerous to mix Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. Like it's
Either it can be gold or it can be a travesty.
it's a really dangerous mix.
I'm sorry, I just was not a fan of, and Johnny Depp's one of my favorite actors, and I think him paired with Tim Burton, I think they can be a great duo, but I just was not a fan of the Willy Wonka version that they did.
Do you have a favorite movie with the two of them together?
Oh yeah, Edward Scissorhands, hands down. I love Tim Burton when he's at his most gothic.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed him in The Lone Ranger too, but the problem with it is he carried the movie. I mean, who was the other?
Johnny.
Johnny Depp carried the whole
Armie
movie.
Hammer.
Armie Hammer. That's the problem. Was everyone was like, "Who's going to be the Ranger?" And then for most people, it's like, "Okay, who's this person?" And if you ask people like a month before the movie, came out, they'd be like, "Oh, Armie Hammer." But when the movie came out, people were like, "Who's this person?" And it really suffered. I enjoyed the movie though. I felt like everyone gave a pretty good performance, but that was the other problem. Was he gave you had an A-list star in a
sidekick role.
Yeah, in a sidekick role. And, it feels like the whole joke was every time that the, protagonist did something, the, co-protagonist, would steal the spotlight. But it wasn't that well balanced in that sense. I really enjoyed the visual structure too. But there's so much sand in that movie, or there's so much desert. And I understand for a Western it's going to be desert. But, I mean, there's an oversaturation in a sense. But
I thought that was a covert Johnny flick, which I love him, but I felt like Armie Hammer was the main character, but I feel like it definitely centered around Johnny Depp and the Tonto character.
When I saw Pirates 5, I kind of see it was better than 4, but 4 was. I mean, most people either love or hate the second, Pirates movie. Most I'd say kind of.
I like the first 3.
The first one is such a classic. The second one's you either like it or you don't like it, and then the third one, that one's really mixed up. But after seeing the fifth one, I understand why it was on its way out. They just are so focused on like sailing or traveling, but then they don't do anything in the water. What made the second one kind of interesting was you had the Flying Dutchman ship and you had the Kraken in the water. You had things that were actually going on in the water when they were sailing. When you have the Salazar and his crew, I mean, you have a couple of scenes like with the weird half-dead sharks or something that they're launching and they can't go on land. Mm-hmm. For me, I felt that like when you have a sea piece, and that's actually a very kind of rare piece nowadays, but like when you have a sea piece, you have to make the water interesting. And the only couple things you can do is you could have something from the air, you could have something on the sea or below the sea. There's nothing much else you could do besides, I don't know, like a civil war on the ship or a mutiny.
Yeah. I've actually never seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Not one?
Not one.
You
and
failed Get Out.
I know,
kidding.
it's one of the many movies that I just kick myself for never seeing.
Are you just more of a TV person?
Yeah, I'm
television
just
show
definitely
person?
a TV person. Like,
Okay.
it's just how I spend my time more. I don't like to waste my time just like sitting and watching long movies.
You'll just binge watch a bunch of TV episodes.
Yeah, instead. Because I have a shorter attention span and I just want to like watch one episode.
Well, apparently not if you can watch a freaking season.
Yeah, but it's like I like to get invested in like the same characters for a long time because I get like emotionally attached to a show if I really like who they are. So it's like with the movie, it's like you see it once and it's all over, and then but with the show, it's like you get to see them again and again.
I cannot get invested in anime anymore because I watched Gurren Lagann when it came out. Or sorry, not when it came out, but like when it was released on like Cartoon Network. And I was like, oh wow, 12 episodes! I can't wait for the next season. And I'm like,
oh my god, yeah.
Oh,
they get canceled just as we start getting like really into the show.
It's either 12 or 24 episodes, and I'm sorry, but that's not enough time to get invested.
Yeah.
And for me, it feels like if that was season 1, that's what happened with One Punch Man. It got one season, and I was like, I'm invested. And then they came out with season 2. But like tying it back into movies, what happens when a movie or a product shifts development? Like, let's say if for whatever reason Star Wars 9 was then worked on by Warner Brothers or Sony, like just for whatever reason, like somehow it happened and the quality shifts or just something seems off whenever it moves production or, producers. And that's something I kind of noticed in a couple of, like Spider-Man, when the second, like the Spectacular Spider-Man came out, when you compare Sony to, was it Warner Bros. That did the first one, or no, that was Fox.
I have no idea.
Fox did both.
Wait, which ones?
There was the Tobey Maguire one, and then there was the 2012 ones, right?
The Tobey Maguire one was Sony, and then after that, I have no idea.
Didn't Fox... Wait. The first one was with Fox, right? Tobey Maguire?
I think it was Sony.
Sony?
Yeah.
I'm getting mixed up. Let's talk about a different subject. I just... For me, many of the superhero genres tend to... Not blend, that's a bad way of saying it, but they tend to cluster, and it's kind of hard to separate them. Just for me. What about y'all? What do you want to talk about?
What do you think about the new Star Wars movie coming out? I'm gonna see it.
Personally, I don't particularly care about Star Wars. I'm not really a Star Wars fan. I know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I just don't particularly care.
I feel that the people who've watched the trailer and seen their reactions, I think Disney did a wonderful job deflecting the rage of The Last Jedi. That was a very, very well edited trailer, and I think that by flat out telling the audience that something's going to happen at C-3PO, that they are deflecting the whole Rey saga from the last movie. But this isn't how we win. We don't, blow ourselves up with ships and stuff. With that scene and stuff. I mean, I was in the theater on New Year's Day. And there were half people were cheering, half people were, a quarter people were cheering, a quarter was silent, and half left, to be honest. Like, when that scene happened, they left.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this movie, it really has a lot riding on it for Disney. And, I mean...
They can't please everybody.
My question is, what's their target audience? I mean, is it the Star Wars fans? Because... Let's say, for all intents and purposes, they're trying to introduce a new cast while continuing in the same world. And that's an honorable thing in itself. But if you keep bringing in these, old cast people, you're baiting to nostalgia. And you're not doing something new. For most people, they get this feeling that it's like... that they're being taken advantage of as the audience.
I mean, for me personally, like, I didn't grow up with the original Star Wars, so I feel like people who, actually from the older generation who grew up in, like, the 70s and 80s and had the original Star Wars, they're more nostalgic to it. But for me, like, I don't get how everyone like overreacted over like the way they treated Luke in The Last Jedi and everything, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, they killed off Han Solo, and now they did this to Luke," and everyone wants like the old characters, but I'm just like, okay, like let's get over that. Let's focus on the new characters.
Well, and my problem is there's a great video of why people like Star Trek Next Generation versus the newer Star Treks. And it's because the quality of writing. You had characterization, you had actually personal dialogue versus what are you doing? I'm taking the ship. Don't take the ship. I'm taking ship. And then they just it's not that the people feel like they're empowered or prideful. It's just that they're going to do what they're going to do. It's like there's no real consequence. You don't really see a character crying because they feel sad. You see them crying because that's the point in the script where they have to cry. And for me, it's not that it's formulaic. It's that it's just... I'm not going to criticize the performances, specifically since I've only ever seen Episode 1 and Episode 8 of Star Wars. But the one thing I feel like I can criticize about it, specifically the last movie, and looking at the trailer for 9, is they're going to have to cut back on the computer. They're going to have to cut back on CGI because...
Really?
I mean, it was bad in the last movie.
CGI nowadays is just everywhere.
Like, and they
CGI, I remember it being really bad in the prequels.
Well, it wasn't as it was okay. It was probably worse in the prequels, but I don't think it was as prevalent as in the last movie. And from the little bit that I've seen of Episode 7, I keep forgetting about that one. But of Episode 7, there's some practical effects in it. But in the last one, besides the casino scene, which honestly I don't know why, but the casino scene is like the one practical effect kind of place. But then, I'm sorry, 90% of the film is CGI. That's 90% of the film. And you can do a film that's CGI. But one of the biggest problems is, well, there's 3 problems, but one, do you capture it all? And do you capture it right? That's the Transformers problems. They have pretty great CGI, but they're not captured on camera correctly.
Yeah.
2, does it mesh well? Do you actually have 2 people talking to each other? Or is it like a Roger Rabbit effect where it's like, okay, this person's real, this person's fake, and you know it, but that's not supposed to how it should be.
I really feel like special effects and computerization, adding in music, whatever it is, like that department can really like ruin a movie or a show sometimes. Sometimes I just want like authenticity and just the characters to just be able to breathe and just talk to each other and just rely on the dialogue.
I didn't see the Independence Day movie, but I could tell that there was quite... you can tell mainly from the trailer of a movie. Don't judge a book by its cover, y'all, but you can tell pretty much the premise of a movie and what it has, what it's lacking. And the Independence Day movie, what I saw was it was really lacking. And I won't say the characters at all, like, from the ones that, they died. I won't say that, but it was lacking that sense of realism. Like when you do a year jump or, any future story, when you do like, 5-10 years in the future and something like that. I mean, like with it, when the characters, jump in time, that makes sense, that's blended. But when you do a far future thing, when you're pulling into CGI elements, when you have the, smooth skyscrapers and all the, like land of tomorrow aspect ideals, you don't know what that's going to be like. And you don't know if that's actually going to mesh well with the audience. Like, what's actually on screen, like if you're looking at CGI, will this depiction work? And that's mainly actually the art style. Because for most for most people that use CGI, they tend to rely on like real world physics or like, type of special effects. And they just kind of computer generate around that. But I'm just wondering how like future like kind of films will use CGI, like whether or not it's just going to be like movable ragdoll physics or something like that, or if it's going to actually be pretty detailed, or if they're going to do something artistic. If they're going to do like some type of futuristic cell shading or something along those lines where it looks really different. But what do you think?
I don't really have much thoughts on it.
On the CGI or
well, when it comes to like CGI, I think it's best used for cleaning up certain elements, like wires or stuff like that. I think it should be used as a technique to help the film along and not be something like a focal point in a film.
It should be the crutch of the film.
Yeah, I'm more pro practical effects.
Or when something actually is animated and fully CGI.
Yeah, if it's an animated film, yeah, but if it's a live action version, I think CGI should be used as like a kind of polishing in a sense, where it shouldn't be the main focus. Great CGI, you shouldn't be able to point it out, obviously.
Yeah. It's like in like the Cats movie that's coming out, like the trailer. Like it looks so terrible because you can see like the CGI on their faces and everything, and it looks so terrible.
There's a whole channel that dives into like breaking down CGI, and one of the worst things they broke down, and I mean like they did a great job breaking it down, was if you look at Infinity War or any Iron Man scenes, the head bobs up and down, and it's almost like plastered on the suit. So the suit is stationary. That's like programmed in. But the heads have to go on top of that. And you'll see the characters' necks bob up and down. Or like, like a floating head. You'll see it kind of bob up and down a bit. That's why you don't see them a lot without the helmets on. Or if you see, Iron Man with the suit but not the helmet. But you won't see it like, when it does that almost Transformer effect where it folds into itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you won't see a long focus on that. It'll just be a quick scene and then next scene.
To get it out of the way,
Yeah.
So, yeah. We want to wrap this up because we're going on an hour.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should end it right here. I'm getting hungry.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out to Mr. Taco, have some good food there.
Hell yeah. So that was the Miracosta Filmmakers podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you again for the next one. I'm Kim.
I'm Jessica.
I'm Tim.
And we're out. Have a good one, guys.